Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Federation, and welcome to another Star Trek Attack Wing State of the Federation. I am your host, Delta Angel Fire, and joining me this evening are my fine fellow co-hosts and gentlemen and scholars all around. I have David. Hey, David, how's it going?
Hey, guys.
And we have
Let's go, right?
and we have Tucker.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I come to you safely from the side of a mountain in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
New relocation to Utopia Planatia. I have no
Something
idea
like
where
that.
is. All right, how's it going this evening, guys? So,
It's going well.
isn't it? I had fun this morning. I had no power. I didn't know if we were actually going to have a show today.
That's never a fun situation.
Well, hey, we have a show, though, so...
We do,
all's
and I'm
good in
glad
the
to
end,
see
right?
everyone here, over here and in the chat. And remember, chat, if you have any questions or if you just want to say hi, go ahead and type it in. And if there's any questions, we will address them as they come up. But starting for today's episode, we're going to be starting off with the Fleet Officer cards. I don't know if they're actually called Fleet Officer cards. They're probably just Officer cards or something.
I think they're just officer cards.
Officer cards, yeah.
That is the lamest name for a card resource thing I've ever heard in this game yet.
Somewhat appropriate, though.
Descriptive, but not very thematic. But we'll be going over those. That's the last part of OP3 we didn't get to cover last week. And after that, we're going to start talking about the WizKids Open Star Trek Attack Wing regional scene, including the scenario, things you can expect there, the general rules, and all that good stuff. Sound good to you guys?
Sounds great.
Yep.
All right. So without any further ado, let me pull up the officer card reference. Before we even get into the cards, we have the all wonderful little reference rules that you need to know in order to play these things. So, the officer cards are a resource, so of course you can only have one. They're kind of unique in that it's a scalable kind of resource. You can take anywhere from 1 to 4 of these cards, and it'll cost you from 3 to 12 points. I think that's pretty neat. What about you guys?
I really like the idea. I like that you can take what you want, take what you need. You really have to think about how each one brings value to your fleet and the ship that you put it on, and what it's taking away as well. So overall, I like the idea.
I am fond of the idea as well. I personally would prefer that they just got it over with and put out a resource budget. But in lieu of that, I will take this, especially since, to me, aspects of this are very disappointing, and I don't want to have to pay 12 points for the whole thing.
Yeah, because you know some of them are not the best, so you can mitigate that by only taking 9 points worth. Or the other thing I like about it is the only resource in the game that currently can be as little as 3 points.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I hate it when I'm trying to fit in your 5 or 10 points and I just can't fit it in there.
Yeah, and at the very, very least, with a couple of them that I'm sure we'll get to later, there are 2 of these in here that I would say, if you have 3 points and for some reason you haven't used a resource and you can't find anything else you want to run, as long as you have the necessary crew, there's really no reason not to use these.
Indeed. And you bring up a good point. So, officer cards are assigned to 1 or more of your crew upgrades, so you must have crew upgrades to use them. When assigning these cards, be sure to stack the officer card beneath the crew upgrade so the lower half of the officer card is visible. You may assign up to 2 officer cards to any one of your crew upgrades. Along with that, officer cards add bonus text-based abilities and upgrade slots to the crew upgrade and/or his ship. You may use bonus text abilities in addition to the crew's upgrade's normal text, if applicable, during the battle. So, these things count as their effects as part of the crew member they are on, which is a neat effect, but also for the fact that if the crew gets disabled or discarded, then you can no longer use your resource ability. Now, thematically, of course, this makes sense. But now you have to worry about, with crew ganking and stealing starting to come back into play, have I just given my opponent 6 points worth of resource level materials in addition to a crewman?
That's a good point.
Makes
I'm
you
sorry,
worry,
could you say that one more time, Will?
If someone steals your officer card that you have upgraded with these things, as far as I understand it, the officer cards go with them. And that crewman can uses his own abilities and all the abilities on the officer cards. So if he's stolen, it goes with him. If he's disabled or discarded, these abilities will not work either.
It's a tricky one because it says officer cards are assigned to one or more of your crew upgrades. My understanding is that's the same phrasing that you would use to assign an elite talent to a captain? Question mark. And if you somehow stole a captain, the elite talent, it's tricky. It's tricky. I can see the argument both ways.
But yeah, regardless of whether you can steal them or not, you can still discard them, and discarding is starting to become a little more prevalent, I believe. Has that been your guys' experience?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Tucker.
No, please go ahead.
I was saying, I think we're finally starting to see people wanting to mess with their opponent's fleet more and more, especially in these last couple collective OPs, because of the co-op nature, but the competitiveness with your opponent. You want a way to mess with them because you can't control their destruction. And I also think we're finding that getting rid of your opponent's crew is a good way to stop a lot of these combos.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more, I think the metagame's going to see a shift more to discarding after WizKids has intentionally, in my mind, been upping the power level of ganking cards. Look at the Borg Scout Q pack, We have
the ones in there are ridiculous.
Right. So to me, that just says ganking's going to get better, which means these cards get worse. Especially if when you steal a card, even if they don't go with you, you're still losing the benefit of your resource. But if they do go with you, then wow, that's rough.
That is rough.
Yep. Just finishing out the rest of the reference, the first officer card has a talent icon. You may field a talent with them, of course, with that. If a crew upgrade that has one or more officer cards assigned to it is ever disabled, assigned officer cards are considered disabled as well. If he is discarded, the officer cards are considered discarded as well. Note that if the first officer is ever discarded, his talent upgrade is discarded as well. So a lot of incentive to try to target these crew and just get them off of there.
It's too vulnerable, man. I don't like it.
We didn't have the same. Here's the one thing that we didn't have the same kind of vulnerability we did with flagships. Obviously, are the resource of choice to measure up against. I think. And then, and also the fleet captain cards. Both of those are ones that are not very easily gotten rid of, I should say, I guess. Because you can't assimilate a captain, you can't unflagship your opponent's ship or disable the flagship abilities. So yeah. Very interesting things there. So as we go about wondering seeing the weaknesses of these, let's look at their strengths. Starting with First Officer. I love First Officer, and I'll go into reasons why later. Whenever you perform a battle station, scan, or evade action, you may place 2 tokens of the appropriate type beside your ship instead of 1. If you do so, place an Aux Power token beside your ship. If your captain's skill is ever reduced below 4, you may use the skill number on this card instead of your captain's skill number. Alright, so this one leads to a couple questions, but I'm going to believe that it'll allow me to make Bohica a captain. because that's the way I like to think about it.
Wait. I'm sorry. Say that again?
I like to think of this as my way to make Bohica a captain.
I don't understand. I'm sorry, you're going to have to explain that. Oh, I see. You make him the first officer, and okay, I'm with you now.
I don't. It says, however, in the second part, if your captain skill is ever reduced below 4. Does that count if your captain skill starts below 4? If I put just a generic captain on my ship, can I make Bohica the first officer and the commander at the same time instantly?
I wouldn't think so. I think the word reduced would point to you have to start above 4 in order for the first officer to kick in.
No. If it is, look, I don't think it's quite any time. I don't think it sets a minimum at 4. But if it's ever reduced to a number below 4, I think this kicks in. So, for example, if you disable a 1-skill captain, I think this would kick in.
That could work.
Yeah.
Regardless, even whether he is the captain at 4 skill or not, maybe I would be fond of having him as a 1 skill with this ability, because it essentially mimics Janeway. So now Janeway is no longer special.
Well, here's the thing about Janeway. Janeway is still special because Janeway says you may place an additional token of the appropriate type, meaning Janeway stacks with first officer.
Oh, really? I had not considered that.
Yes. Hello, would you like 3 scan tokens? How about 3 scan tokens and a science officer on there? How you like that, cloakers?
Hey, how about 3 evades just for pure defense?
We've already got the NX-01 armor plating for that.
But we might not for the regionals.
Oh, that is a good point. But we won't have this for regionals either. And
that's correct.
We'll get to that at the WizKids Open section. But First Officer, I think, is a darn good card. It's a really easy way to get a talent slot on pretty much anybody. And like I said, I love using it with Bohica. I'll take just Bohica and the First Officer on a ship for free battle stations anytime. Any other people you think this would combo well with, in particular?
Kind of interesting with Garrick from the Deep Space Nine pack, because now Garrick has 2 elite talents.
Yeah,
that's cute.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine Garrick as your number 1?
Oh gosh. Yeah, that's all we need. Garrick is in charge of the ship.
Well, on that note, this is yet another way to give Weiyun conditional surrender.
Right.
You can throw this with First Officer Lee Nollis.
Sir.
That'd be fun.
Wah, 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 wah. No, because if Lee Nollis is disabled, then you can't use the elite talent, right?
Let's go back and check. The assigned officer cards are considered disabled. If it's discarded, it's considered discarded. If the first officer is discarded, his crew upgrade is discarded. Well, it does not say that his talent would be disabled. It only says if he's discarded.
Ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
For semantics.
Obviously, this combos with TOS Enterprise.
Yep.
Yeah.
Triple evades. And all the double extra Ox tokens every turn.
It'll combo with anything that'll let you get rid of an Ox token. Combos with Stargazer, for example.
If you're concerned about these things, who needs actions anyway? Oh wait, this card does.
Combos with Riker. Mirror Riker.
Oh, very nice. You get double tokens and you get free actions.
Yeah, if you
still want auxiliary mitigation though at some point.
Yeah, I guess. I guess you could only do it on the second one you did from him.
But yeah,
something like that.
Overall, pretty good, I think. I can't think of any other killer combos with him at the moment.
I mean, anything that Janeway works with, this will work with too. That's the easiest way to look at it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so moving on, we have our tactical officer, Mr. Worf. Oh wait, Worf was useless. And so is this card.
So
Sorry, did I say that out loud?
No. I completely agree. I completely see where you're going with that.
Tactical officer, add 1 weapon upgrade slot to your upgrade bar. During the roll attack die step of the combat phase, you may spend a battle stations token to roll +1 attack die. During the roll defense dice step of the combat phase, you may spend a battle stations token to roll +1 defense dice. Why would you spend your battle stations tokens this way? Why do you hate them?
This only mathematically works out if you're rolling 2 or less attack dice. I think I worked it out to that.
Or if you're rolling 0 defense dice.
Or if you have 2 battle stations.
No, I would rather use 1 on offense and 1 on defense. Like I can't.
I would need
you know that you're not going to be attacked.
I would need like 4 battle stations to start justifying this.
Yeah.
Which maybe we could get to with the first officer, but
no, we could get 3 with the first officer and Janeway, I guess. Question mark. And then maybe if you have Spock on the ship as well, but then you're not using battle stations, you're using scan. I just don't. Maybe if you were on TOS Enterprise with Janeway, Mr. Spock being the tactical officer and the first officer, and you had T'Pol and high energy sensor sweep. That is when I would use this card.
Tucker, to approximately quote you from a few weeks ago, if you're working this hard to make a bad card work, it's not worth it.
That is exactly my point. Like, that is the only time I can think of this ever being useful.
yeah.
That 1 extra weapon can be useful on like Super Voyager, just getting that extra slot. But again, you have better ways of getting it. Fleet captains, flagships.
Mm-hmm. There's friggin' Taurus, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And you would need a crewman in the first place to put this on something. So like this doesn't help the generic scout vessel for the Romulans because they don't have a crew slot. It doesn't really help anything without a target lock that much, I guess.
Sakona costs the same as this on most ships.
Yeah.
I don't like this one. I think I'd rather save my points.
This is terrible.
Yeah. This is probably the worst of the 4, though.
By a long shot, yeah.
But that's okay, because we have more to choose from. Including...
And we don't have to use all of them. We don't have to use all of them. So this is just good, you know?
Exactly. Operations Officer. Add a crew upgrade slot to your upgrade bar. Woohoo, we get a crew for a crew. During the modify attack dice step of the combat phase, you may choose 1 of your attack dice and reroll that die twice. During the modify defense step of the combat phase, you may choose 1 of your defense dice and reroll that die twice. This does not have any prerequisite or token requirement or anything. It just happens. I like it. It's not, I don't think it's huge, but I think it's good.
My only concern is with the wording reroll that die twice.
No, you do not.
Up to twice.
No, you do not. You're not forced to reroll it twice, because that would just be silly. It would just say reroll once.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm going to look up the wording for Romulan Tactical Officer and compare. So just give me a second here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at some Romulans. Yeah, it says you may reroll each attack die an additional time. It's iffy. Mm-hmm. It's iffy.
There's absolutely no reason for it to be twice if you could not choose to stop after 1.
Yeah, that's true.
I would hope so.
I would hope not, yeah.
And anyone who tells you differently is an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to definitely, as a TO, I'm going to say that's up to twice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'd agree.
Encourage any other TO I play with to say that that's up to twice.
Yeah. This card to me, unlike Science Officer or First Officer, this is not a card to me that says use Officer Resource. This is a card that says to me, hey, if you're already using the officer resource, do you need an extra crew slot for something? And if you're running Dominion or something, the answer may very well be yes. So go ahead and grab it if you're already doing First Officer Bohica or something. It in and of itself, I would almost never run Operations Officer by itself. But it is a solid addition if you're already using one of the other two.
I'd agree with that. Sounds good?
Yeah. It's quite possibly my favorite of the cards, but it's not the one that says take this resource because of it.
Yeah. It's look, I just don't think that the reroll ability, because it's only one die, is just it's not enough for me to say. I mean, because look what, again, it's competing against fleet captains, competing against flagships. This does not sell me on the resource. Other things sell me on this resource. Don't get me wrong, folks at home. This is a good resource. But...
And since this thing can go on pretty much any crew, I don't think there's any crew that really combo well with it any better than any other crew.
No.
So there's no...
Actually, you know what? You know what? Actually, I just thought of something. Ready for this? That wording of tactical officer, the Romulan one that I just looked up. Okay, when removing your target lock from an opposing ship in order to reroll your attack dice, you may reroll each attack die an additional time. Could be that it stacks with this wording, allowing you to reroll a die 3 times.
Yeah, actually, because additional is not twice.
And what it means is you take your ops reroll first, right? Then you remove your target lock, which says I can reroll this die an additional time.
Could be neat.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I want to reroll a die 3 times, but that's there.
Your dice hate you that much.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least, I think one of the most useful ones, the other most useful one, I should say, Science Officer. Add a tech upgrade slot to your upgrade bar. Oh my god, a tech.
That in itself would have been enough to make this one viable. Just the tech upgrade slot.
Yeah, I agree.
But wait, there's more. Each time you attack, if there is a scan token beside your ship, the defender rolls -2 defense dice instead of 1.
And that would have been enough.
But wait, there's more. If you call now, during the modified defense dice step of the combat phase, you may spend a scan token to add 1 evade result to your roll. Call now, now operators are standing by.
Quick rules question. Can you do both of these off of a single scan token? I'm unsure.
Yes, you can, because if you recall from the resource reference, all these abilities are all being done by the crew upgrade, and tokens are only limited per upgrade.
Oh, that's cute. That's cute. Oh, that's so cute. I love it.
Isn't it? So not only could you stack this with itself, but you can also stack it with Dimitri Valtane, Breen Aid, Mr. Spock.
Oh my god.
This is the one you have to be careful of who you put it on.
This one almost makes Geordie LaForge look playable.
Almost. And he would be playable if it wasn't for cards like Spock, Valtane, Breen Aid. But yeah.
Well, no. But wait a minute. Think about this, guys. Like, First Officer Janeway, 3 scan tokens on 1 ship now. I mean, you know, we might, you know, God.
Now, see, if you really want to be silly about it, do you get -2 per scan token?
I think you do.
I unfortunately think you don't. But it is a question for the FAQ, I suppose.
Yeah, but okay, but here's the thing. Even if you don't, if you're getting 3 scan tokens, maybe even more with Romulan pilot, I mean, you're negating cloak.
And that's still, yeah, that's still -4 defense dice.
Yeah.
Minus
Oh, yeah.
4.
Oh yeah, you betcha.
And I mean, I know you don't often see ships with 10 defense dice. Oh wait, there's one coming up.
These days. Shelley, Paris, Sulu.
Sir,
Cloaking
good sir,
device, Voyager flagship. Yeah.
good sir. Are you suggesting that the Borg should take this and just start scanning the pants off of everybody?
I mean, how many times as a Borg player have you've looked at your captain, who's a tactical drone, and you've looked at your action bar, and you're like, well, I want to attack, and I already re-roll with tactical drone, so I guess I'll just scan. Oh, look, now I have a text slot for feedback pulse.
Well,
Yeah.
I could think of better things to run this with this tech slot, but we can go into that later.
Really? Oh yeah. All the scout scan ridiculousness. I forgot about that.
All sorts of fun things. So, that is the officer cards. I don't know, which one do you guys prefer, first officer or science officer?
It's tough. Take both. Why not?
Greedy.
Depends on what I'm flying, because first officer, actually both kind of shaft Klingons and Romulans.
Yep.
That is a good point that I was going to bring up and completely forgot about. Because they require scan or battle stations, and I don't want to say none of the ships have that, but none of the really good ships.
Well, the Raptor isn't okay. The Raptor's terrible. Yeah, Klingons and Romulans get screwed here.
See anyone else?
Yeah, in fact.
Well, there's the fact that Borg don't get battle stations and Species 8472 don't get battle stations, but we don't care about Tactical Officer anyway. He's the bottom of the pile.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, 8472 don't get crew, so they wouldn't even run this.
That's a fair point as well, I suppose.
Well, you could put lore on there, maybe. Not in Faction Pure.
Nope. Especially if that is the problem. If this is your only resource, you're not going to have a lot of Faction Pure shenanigans you can pull.
That is so untrue.
Okay, there will be a lot of shenanigans, but not nearly as many.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. There will be a lot of shenanigans you can pull if you're Borg, Federation, or Dominion, which, of course, are the 3 factions that need the least help right now.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the cards. I'd probably take Science Officer before I took First Officer, but that's me.
I agree with that assessment. You know what the sad thing is, though? Romulans can't even scan, and they still want Science Officer just for the tech slot.
Yeah.
The Valdor has been itching for one ever since its release.
Although I guess, you know, Romulan pilot, they can get some use out of that.
Yeah,
but then here's the other question. Do you take these over, say, Fleet Captain or Flagship?
Depends on the build. I mean, look, you take Science Officer, you take First Officer. That already gives you Talent Tech, which is the same as the
Klingon Independent. Klingon Independent.
Yeah, Klingon Independent, which hilariously gives you the scan action you would need for Science Officer.
Why can't I have both? I have the sneaking suspicion that eventually Flagship is going to start getting banned.
Well, you know, I think it's more likely that we'll see a 20-point resource budget, at which point, for the love of God, take... I mean, that's when you're going to see ridiculous combinations of... I mean, imagine, like, okay, here's a fun one. Okay, 20-point research budget, Romulans with independent Klingon flagship, Science Officer, and Tech Fleet Captain.
3?
My
Oh, man.
Valdor now has 3 interface generators.
I don't need my defense dice at all. I don't care if I got 6 of them. They never roll for me anyway.
Yeah, I don't
Right.
know.
But yeah, no. I think these are very much in line with a lot of the other resources apart from Flagship, so I feel like Flagship
Yeah.
is might get a boost in the future, if not banned. Depending.
Yeah, I mean, flagships,
I would-
ever since they've come out, flagships are the resources you start with.
Mhm.
And fleet captains gave them a run for their money, but it's still,
It's still real iffy.
yeah, it's still real.
They're still very, the fleet captains I feel are still very niche.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
it's because they don't give you the free action.
Yeah.
That's what hurts.
And I mean, a lot of times for me, what the tiebreaker is actually the stat bonus.
The stat bonus enough would justify 10 points of Flagship.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that.
It'd be close. The free action
Stats
alone,
plus
I would
the
go for that.
slots, yeah.
Stats plus slots, definitely. Stats plus free action, definitely. Stats plus flagship ability, maybe. Free action plus slots,
you
definitely
get
would.
4 different bonuses from the Flagship cards. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, even something like, you know, the fleet captain. By the way, I want to point out something also. I would never run Ops Officer by itself. If you're considering doing that, run the independent Klingon fleet captain instead.
The one that gives extra crew. And cheaper.
Extra crew and -1 SP for each crew.
And a free talent.
Because and a free talent, but if you're running, and +1 skill, but if you're running Ops Officer and using the slot, you are literally better off using the Klingon flagship.
Mm-hmm.
Because with the discount, the Klingon flagship effectively costs 3 points if you have at least 2 crew.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So, I think that's good for our resource analysis for tonight. Moving on. Are we ready for the Whiz Kids Open?